Yay! Okay, everybody. So, hey there, it's Jessie Lee Ward. I'm coming to you live from my office again, and I'm pretty excited because oh gosh, one of my dogs is trying to enter. Surprise, surprise. So, I have 4 dogs, for those of you who don't know. So, well, I technically have 3 right now, but we're dog sitting. So, my story I want to share with you. I think that stories are the most important thing you can do in your business because if you want to be successful, you need to be completely transparent. There is nothing worse than somebody in business who you can tell is fake, somebody who you can tell you absolutely cannot relate to because they are not willing to open up about things or tell you maybe even just where they came from, right? Humble beginnings. So I think this is very important because I think this is a big differentiator between where I am currently in my business and where a lot of people who maybe started when I started my business or before I started my business are where they are compared to where I am. So I've always been very open about where I came from. And what I kind of realized today actually was that I haven't told my story in a long time. I actually, if you're unfamiliar, just joined a new company about 5 months ago. And I used to tell what I call my I story every single night. So every time I would go out and do a presentation in someone's home, I would start by giving them sort of a little blippet of my life. And it would, kind of, I don't know how else to, edify is not the right word because I don't think you really edify yourself, but it would humanize me, right? And so, oh yay, Daily Dose of Jessie Lee, yay! So I will try to do this every day, I promise. We're about to go to the dog park, but first I want to tell you my story. So I'm actually going to give you way more detail than I used to when I would do my little I story at parties, but I think, and I realized this over the past few years, it's the reason I am the way I am. And if you can find out what your story is and why certain things happened in your life to turn you into who you are today, I think that it'll be a very powerful message that you can share amongst the masses. Because no matter what your story is, no matter what your background is, no matter how bad it was, no matter how good it was, no matter how much you think maybe it was the same story that everyone you know has, there's something powerful about being very open about who you are and showing people that you care about them, okay? So I'm gonna take you way back to 1988. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what happened in 1988. I was just born then. I was raised by, when I was born, my parents were still together. We lived in Silver Spring, Maryland. And my great-grandmother was there, and she passed away when I was about 1.5 years old. But she always instilled, apparently, according to my mother, learning into our brains at a very young age. So allegedly, my older brother, he's almost an Irish twin, but not quite. He apparently was reading when he was like 18 months old. He was speaking full sentences by a year. He's still brilliant. He actually has taught himself Mandarin Chinese. He's fluent. He lives overseas in China now. So he's always impressed me with his knowledge. But we think that comes from not only genetics, but my great-grandmother from a very young age. There was a lot of reading going on in the household. And so even though she passed away when I was about 18 months old, I think certainly my love of knowledge, information comes from her being a presence in my life. So my father actually has a lot of mental stuff going on with him. I actually had really no father presence as a child, simply because my father was actually in jail most of my childhood. My parents divorced very young, super abusive relationship. I was actually the one to call the police on my father at a really young age, and so I kind of had some guilt about that growing up because I thought it was my fault that I didn't have a dad. And when I was in school, elementary school, middle school, etc., I used to get made fun of all the time for it. If he was out of jail and he came into jail, it was always really embarrassing for me. I'll never forget. This is actually weird. I don't think I've ever told anyone that I remember this, but now all of the internet gets to know. Now, I remember probably being maybe in 3rd grade or 2nd grade or something like that, and he brought our dog to school, and the dog got loose. I don't know why, but the dog got loose in the school, and it was like one of my most embarrassing moments ever, because then on the intercoms, it was like, there's a loose dog, and it was my little dog Grover. So there were just all these weird memories of any kind of paternal figure in my life. But the reason I bring that up, and like I said, my father and I have a great relationship now. I've forgiven him for everything that happened in the past because I realize everything happens for a reason, and it turns you into who you are as an adult and who you are today. So let me elaborate on that. Because of only a strong, really female presence in my life, I was really raised a lot by my grandparents and solely my mother. I have always been very pro-woman, okay? And I don't mean this in a sexual way or anything like that, if that came out like that to you. What I mean by that is I have always believed that women change the world. I've always believed that you can do anything you want and it does not require any kind of male influence for you to be as successful as you want. And I learned that firsthand. I watched my mom be a very much so single mother as my father was in jail, like I mentioned. I watched my grandmother try to take me to choir practice and stuff, and I know what it's like to struggle. So why do I bring that up? So the title of this, I made it something like Rags to Riches, and it's because my story is very rags to riches, okay? So when I say rags to riches, I don't mean that I was on the streets. I don't mean that I was homeless. What I mean by that is I lived a very meager lifestyle as a child. So we lived in a country town, and we were the have-nots, okay? And some of you on here can probably relate to that. If we wanted to do something, it was really if my grandparents could help pay for it, and if they couldn't, it wasn't going to happen. So what did that instill in me? That instilled a work ethic in me that was like none other, because I knew that if I was ever going to have children, and I know some of you watching are always like, Jessie Lee, have babies, right? I'm going to, just not yet. It instilled in me that I shouldn't have kids until there is enough income in my life where my kids don't have to be the have-nots. They'll have to earn the things, but I will never make my children want for anything that they do deserve based off of good behavior, good grades, etc. Okay, because I know what it's like to feel like, Mom, I'm getting straight A's. Mom, I'm being such a good kid. Mom, I'm helping around the house. Mom, what about me? Where are my clothes? Why do I have to wear hand-me-downs when my older sister is 9 years older than me and doesn't even live here, So I know what that's like. So anyway, back to that. So I know what that's like. I know what it's like not to be able to have the things you want. So I grew up, and like I said, I was always kind of the outcast because, my dad was not around and we didn't have money to do all the fun things that people had. I know what it's like to feel really awkward asking your parents for $10, $15 for a field trip, and then they tell you, no, we don't have it. I know what it's like. And I think that for me, it was such a good lesson. It was such a good lesson because I learned you don't complain, because complaining doesn't get you things. I learned that you can't be upset about what other people have, because ultimately you can change the path for you and your children. I always talk when I do seminars and stuff like that, and I talk about why it's so important to have a deep instilled why inside of you, right? A why that makes you cry is what I call it a lot of the time. And all that means is something that when you feel like everyone's telling you no, or you feel like you cannot succeed anymore, and you're like, I'm throwing in the towel. What is the reason why you can't give up? That's a why, okay? And so I think when you have one of those that's very, very strong, you're just going to succeed. And I think that I've always had that because I know what it's like to not have people around you who have a strong why. Does that make sense? I hope so. So, like I said, I grew up not a lot of stuff, not a lot of cool things, whatever. Didn't really matter to me. I think it also poised a lot of creativity in my life. So we were big at building forts. We would rummage through the woods. I can build a killer fire. So if you guys want to make like a bonfire and make some s'mores together, I'm totally down. I was very outdoorsy. I was a total tomboy. I learned that material things mean absolutely nothing. I learned that family is very important, and you actually get to choose your family as you get older. Just because somebody's related by blood, I've noticed that there are people who are going to influence your life nonstop, and they're not going to have they're not even of the same blood type as you. You know what I mean? You're going to have people that become your family through your life, and I just found that to be so empowering, because as I looked around my neighborhood and as I made, friendships, and some of these people have been in my life for my entire life now, I have family that's not necessarily related to me, and I think that's so empowering to hear, because some of you might feel like you're all alone a lot of the time. Some of you might feel like, I don't get along with my family, I can't stand them. Well, you get to actually pick your own family, and I think that's such like a moment that I had when I was growing up, because I felt like I was alone a lot of the time, right? Okay, so anyway, in high school, I excelled at academics and in music, and I think a lot of that was because I just liked spending extra time at school because we didn't have stuff at home to do. And so I ended up going to college. I talked about this yesterday. I went on a full academic ride, and it was awesome. So my experience in college, I could tell you nothing about what I learned, so please don't ask. My degrees are in marketing and communications. I have a minor in political science and a minor in women's studies. So remember back to that whole women thing? I think that was instilled from a very young age. And like I said, I could tell you nothing. We can talk about politics, but I refuse to actually with anybody. I'll talk about women all day, though. I'm still very passionate about that. But most of the stuff I learned, I'll tell you what college will teach you. So for those of you who watched yesterday, and I told you I have a degree, but I don't think college is for everyone, here's what I mean by that. College for me, I learned work ethic. So I learned how to be a professional procrastinator. I learned how to get more done in an hour than most people do in an entire week. And I'm so serious about that. My productivity is insane. When I sit down and I do something, I will crank for an hour. And it's like, I'll never forget doing like a 25-page paper and being like, done in an hour. And people would be like, what? I think I learned Spanish in 48 hours one time so I could pass my final. Like, there was, I think that's what you learn in college. You kind of define who you are, you learn work ethic, but that's sort of where it ends. So, anyway, went to college and was offered really great jobs actually in New York City where I went to college. I'm still connected with several of my college professors who offered me jobs up in the city, but I turned them down because it was very important to me to give back to my grandparents who then needed some help from me. So my grandmother's super religious. She used to take us to church every Sunday. I was in the church choir, all these church activities, handbell choir, all that stuff, because those were my free activities, right, where I learned a lot of cool stuff as a kid. But my grandparents were very, very important to me. I think they were probably really the only stability that ever happened in my life. And I think that's I owe a lot, pretty much I feel like I owe my life to them. So my grandparents were not in good health. And because of that, post-graduation, I actually left New York City, an amazing marketing job. It was a public relations job, actually, that was offered to me. And instead, I came home to Maryland to help take care of my grandparents. There's a ton of family drama that we don't have time on a Periscope to talk about. I'm sure y'all can relate. I know I'm going to tap my own hearts for that one. No, I'm kidding. A lot of family drama, whatever. But my grandparents meant so much to me that I came back here and I actually got a job in a pathology lab like I talked about. And it was then that I realized that I knew for sure I was destined for something more. So back to the religion thing, I'm not here to preach to you about, I was raised Episcopalian, baptized a Baptist. I've been to everything from Mormon. I've been to a Mormon church. I've been to a Jewish temple. I've done everything, right? For me, religion is so much more just knowing that there's a higher power, knowing that everything happens for a reason, knowing that the universe gives you things, knowing that you're watching this because you're supposed to. And that might sound totally creepy, but I promise you, once you're kind of honed in on that, what happens is really powerful. What happens is you'll start noticing you'll have like a little dream where you'll remember like one little thing, and then the next day, for whatever reason, someone in your life will say something connected to that dream, and you're like, wait, what? Okay, there is a universe. There is something up there putting people in your place, putting messages in your ears. It's up to us to listen, okay? I believe in that, okay? So I'm not telling you to go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays and Saturdays and whatever and go to communion and go to confession. I'm just telling you, believe that it's not just you out there. Believe that there is something out there in the universe putting stuff in your path. I swear by that. I swear by that. I swear by that. I swear by that, okay? So, karma, huge believer in karma. And I'm not gonna curse just because whatever. But they always, people are like, karma's a bee, and I'm like, look, karma's a bee if you're a bee. If you're not, karma's good, right? But anyway, so like I said, it came back down here, and I kept on noticing that the months that I was working at this lab, I was like, something in my life is missing. When I kept putting it out there and talking to, my mom, because I was living in her basement, I could not, I knew in my paycheck, I knew exactly how much money I was going to have when when my paycheck came, I knew exactly how much money I had left over. And that was just not freedom to me. And I'm a huge advocate of pay yourself first. So somebody the other day actually messaged me and she's like, Jessie Lee, you said you were making all this money, or, you were making good money in a lab. How on earth were you broke? You could have moved out of your mom's house. You could have had this. I'm like, look, I don't think you understand the way money really works. Because if you understand how money works, A, you pay yourself first. B, money goes directly into retirement. C, the rest of your money can go into investments. Then you got savings. And then you're out of money after food, right? So many of us, we pay our bills first. We pay our debts first. And then if something's left over, maybe we'll get Chipotle. If you flip it and you put your investments first, and this wasn't supposed to be about money, but I love giving you guys money tips. If you put yourself first, you'll notice that the universe will start putting more money in its place. I promise you, you'll start seeing more opportunities to make money. So this is what happened to me. Basically, I was like, oh my gosh, I need more money. I'm putting all this money into investments. At the time I had a Roth IRA because I had read Ramit Sethi's book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he was telling me I needed to open up these accounts. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't have any money left over. I'm never going to leave my mom's house. And what do you know? Boom, there happened to be network marketing. I swear to you, it was the weirdest thing. This is your live true story of how I found network marketing. There's a little thing called Facebook, if you're familiar. You ever been on there before? It's pretty cool. You can talk to people. Yeah, it's great. No, so I was on Facebook one day trolling like we all do, right? And I was just poking around on Facebook and I saw somebody who I had actually never met. Didn't know who she was. She commented on somebody's wall that I had also never met. So I was doing that thing where you are really stalking, you're like super bored, and you end up like 10 people deep and you have no idea who the person is. You're like reading somebody's status and you're like, how did I get here? You live in Kansas, right? So this is what happened. I was like I was deep into Facebook and on someone's page I didn't even know. And and somebody had written on her wall something like, you need to quit that job you have. You need to join me in my business. And she posted her link, which is a really awful way to market your business, by the way. But look at me now, okay? So I clicked on the link and I was like, what the hell is this? And I started reading it. And I went upstairs next day and I started complaining to my mom. And I said, Mom, I've been reading this book you got me as a college graduation gift. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he says I need to be making more money. And he says I need to invest. And I don't know how to invest if I don't have any extra money. And I was online last night on Facebook. And this girl was talking about this at-home business. And my mom goes, yes, you should do one of those at-home businesses. And I was like, really? Now, if you know me, you know the first at-home business I chose was a little unconventional, very much so women's empowerment, but it's a little taboo. And so my mom, I think, was thinking more along the lines of like Avon or something. Oops, sorry, Mom. And I just went online and I bought a kit under this person who I had no idea. There was no faith in her because I didn't know who she was. There was a faith in myself. Okay, so jump back really fast to when I was, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, no money in the household, couldn't ask my mom to go do stuff, couldn't, rely on anybody, but who could I rely on? Myself. Right? And so my same little spidey senses started tingling, and I was like, man, I could do something with this. And that was immediately when I can't say I went full force because I still had a full-time job, but that was when I started applying myself more. I started putting myself in positions to do that whole rags to riches story. I started loving the word no. The word no got me excited because I was like, dude, if they tell me no faster, I can find a yes faster. So I went to work the next day after buying a kit, walked out of the house, and my mom said, I went, Mom, I bought a kit. She said, well, what is it for? And I said, and she said, look, I don't care what it's for as long as it's not one of those stupid sex toy parties. And I was like, And I walked out the door, went to work. And that was when I realized, oh my gosh, this is it, Jessie. You're either going to make money or you're going to be another statistic that fails. And I knew I wasn't going to be a statistic that fails because I'm all about dream, create, repeat. Dream, create, repeat. Dream, create, repeat. Okay? And so this is what I did. I went to work. And I worked in a lab, like I mentioned. I went upstairs, and upstairs is where all the women were, for whatever reason, except for 2 scientists. And I started asking everyone, I said, would you have a party? Would you have a party? Would you have a party? And I heard like 10 no's within 2 minutes, and I was like, damn, I just spent $400 on something, and I need to make that money back, because I invested in myself. I need to make the money back. And so then I said, you know what? I'm gonna go downstairs. And I went down into the lab, and the first person I asked in the lab said yes. And that launched everything for me. Because as soon as I was like, oh, yeah, I tasted that feeling of success, I knew I wanted more. Flash forward to 4 days after that person said yes, I had my first show. It was a $1,700 party. I was reading out of a catalog. And I realized at that point in time, it was a $744 profit that I was dreaming, that I was creating, and that I could keep repeating it. And I went on to run a multi-million-dollar team. For those of you who don't already know, I broke every single record I know of in the company, and I had a blast doing it, right? So then I just realized that that company was never going to be my long-term plan, and I moved on, which is absolutely fine. But here's the thing. Everybody has stuff. Okay, everybody has bad stuff that, bad cards that are dealt to them, things that happen that they wish they didn't, life scenarios that maybe aren't peaches and cream. But there is nothing I hate more than somebody who will not help themselves, okay? If I sat on here and I complained to you about my misfortunes and, oh, this happened to me and it was such a sad, sad story, you guys would not listen to me because you'd be like, all she does is complain, okay? And I will tell you, I've got stuff. We all have stuff, right? I say my favorite, but it's like my least favorite thing about myself is I have an awful memory, right? You know, people who complain about it all the time, they're like, my memory is really bad. Well, my memory is really bad. I literally have a brain tumor, but it doesn't matter to me because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to leverage this because I can just keep asking questions over and over again. Next thing you know, I remember it all. All right. So don't worry about the obstacles in your path. Worry about how you're going to succeed by getting through the obstacles. So now am I a top earner? Yeah. Okay. Now do I live in a really nice house in a really expensive area of the country? Yeah. Do I have an amazing husband? Yes. Do I have not only my dogs, but also I foster dogs because I live this life of freedom. I'm very freedom motivated now. Yes. Okay. So the reason I want to tell you my story is because you can make your own story. You can change your own life. You can be the influence. You could be the person delivering this kind of message to people, this message of hope and positivity and life-changing experiences, okay? That kind of stuff I think is so powerful, because now here I am 5 years into my freedom career, if you will, of doing my own businesses. And you guys, I've been on over 30 free vacations. I have won cars. I have won more Tiffany's and diamonds, and clearly I'm not fancy enough to wear any of them, because whatever. I've won more stuff than the average person. Designer handbags, I think I have like 15 of them that I never use. It's like I have so much stuff because I took a chance, because I believed in myself, because I didn't let my past define me, because I didn't let anybody else define me, but because I believed in myself, because I believed that I was destined for more than just the girl from the country who's gonna get a good job at a bank or a whatever, and I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder, and I'm gonna retire when I'm 65, and I'm gonna have 16 grandkids, and no, I wanted to design, I might have 16 grandkids, I don't know, but I want to design my own path. I want to design my own future, and if you're watching this, you're smart, and I'm so grateful for you for watching it because you're giving me a part of your time. So I will let you guys go, but I hope you got something out of that. I'm gonna head to the dog park and make some connections for my business. I hope you guys all have a very prosperous rest of your day, and if you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. Every handle of mine is I'm Boss Lee. So Facebook.com/I'm Boss Lee, Instagram.com/I'm Boss Lee, Twitter's actually I'm the Boss Lee. Some guy won't give me the I'm Boss Lee handle, but whatever. We'll punch him in the face. No, I'm kidding. But have a great rest of your day, guys. Anything you need, feel free to let me know. And have a good one.